So now the next thing we're going to do here before starting our views.py and urls.py, inside of this folder in to-do API, we're going to create a new file called serializer.py. There we go. And here from REST framework, we're going to import serializers. And by the way, the name of this file is serializers, so we need to add s at the end. And then here we need to import from models, from .models, import, and we had a class named to-do, right? So let us look at it. Okay, we had to-do, so import to-do. So now we're going to create a class to-do serializer, to-do, and with capital letters, serializer. And here we're going to use the attributes of serializers dot, and here we're going to use model dot model serializer. So class meta and M with the capital letter. And now here we're going to write model equals to do, which is our model instead of the .models or models.py. And we have fields, which is an array containing, or a list containing the variables inside of the model. So we had task, and we had timestamp, we had completed, also updated, and also we had the user. So there we go, that's it for the serializers, and we go after the urls.py. So first let's edit our views.py. There we go. And so let's remove this one too. So from REST framework dot, so from REST framework dot views, import API view, and also from REST framework dot response, import response with capital letter, and also from REST framework again, import status and permissions. That's it. And from .models, import to-do. So to-do, and from .serializers, import to-do serializer. So now we're going to get started with our views. So here the first thing we're going to do is to create a class called to-do list API view, and we're going to use the API view that we have imported, API view, And then what we're going to do is to create a variable permission classes. And here we're going to use the permissions and user. Here we're going to make sure that the user is authenticated. So let's find the user first. So actually we have permissions dot authenticated. So it should be inside of a square bracket. There we go. And we have a dot in between them. So we need to check the permission if the user is logged in. So that is for that. And let us define. So we're going to have two functions here inside of this class to-do list API view. One for getting and the other one for posting. So first of all, def get request keyword arguments. First of all, arguments star arguments and double star keyword arguments. We also have self, because we are in a class, self request arguments and keyword arguments. So now we're going to create a new variable, call it to-dos. And here we're going to use the to-do dot objects dot filter. And so we're going to get the user ID. So user equals user that request, request that user that ID. And next we're going to have serializer equals to do serializer, which we imported from our serializers.py. And we have two attributes, to-dos that we have defined, and many equals to true. And there we go. And then we're going to return response and serializer.data is one of the attributes, and the other one is status. So it's going to be status.http, status.http. So it's the HTTP 200. We have a number of HTTP, which is okay. And so that's it for this function, for the get function. We also have post function. So def post. So let me explain first what we did inside of the get function. First of all, we've got the user ID here and the to-dos, and put it inside of the to-dos. And so we got the data related to that user and put it inside of the to-dos, and then we got our serializer. We put in the to-dos data inside of our serializer. So we serialize the data, and then we return the response for our data. So we return the data of that specific user to the person who wants to see that. Okay, then we're going to have the post function, which gets the attributes self, request, and the same arguments, arg, and this is also args. So, and double star keyword, double asterisk keyword arguments. So now here we're going to write the data. So generally what we have instead of the data is task completed and the user. So these three are important, and then the other two are related to the time. So let me first create our curly bracket. This is something like a dictionary. So it's going to be our JSON data. So let's write the task first. And then we have the colon request dot data dot get, then we have the task, we have completed. Okay, so let me fix this. Oh, just keeps irritating me. So then we have another attribute which is completed, another item, and so request that data that get again. So this is related to completed. And then we have the user request that user.id. So there we go. So we need a comma here too. Okay, so there we go. So we have the data, so we need to define our serializer. Serializer equals to-do serializer, which we have imported, and here we're going to enter our data in this serializer. So this is our data, and when the user gets into our to-do list and wants to add a task and is completed the status and also the user, these are the data that the user is going to enter. And so we put the data into the serializer, and then the next thing we do is so we want to check whether it's valid first. So if we want to check if the data that the user has entered is valid. So if serializer dot is valid, then what we're going to do is to save the serializer dot save, and then return the response related to that response. Actually, return response serializer.data, and status which is equals to status.http status.http, and here we're going to choose between each of these. We're going to choose 101, which is for creating the database, creating, which is related to also posting, creating the database, And so that's it. We've created our post function too. Also, if the data is not valid, it should return another response. So return response related to that response, and serializer dot error. So serializer dot errors, and then we're going to have status equals to status dot, and here we should find the 400 related to bad request. This is for the time that you do not enter, as a user, you do not enter the right data inside of your to-do list. So as a user, you should enter the task and whether it's completed or not, and you do not need to enter the user, which you are. The Django will understand that. So that's it. We've created our views.py. This is one of the most important parts of our project. Here is where we are going to manage our REST API. We are also going to add another function, another class with its function. But before that, we want to test whether it works, and so we can get the data related to our REST API. Also, we're going to complete our urls.py and then test it. So in the next video, we're going to do that. So that's it for this part of our REST API tutorials.